Chosen one, you just ruffled some feathers the way you flexed your true authority, and the reverberations are shaking foundations across every realm of influence that matters. That bold move you made wasn't just standing up for yourself, it was the universe announcing to every watching entity that divine power just activated through human form, that now everyone who thought they had you figured out is scrambling to recalculate everything they assumed about your capabilities, your worth, and your untouchable position in the cosmic hierarchy. Right now, someone who dismissed you last month is staring at their phone, thumb hovering over your contact, trying to craft a message that doesn't sound desperate. Another person who used to speak over you in meetings is rehearsing conversations they hope to have with you, practicing tone and approach like they're auditioning for a part in your story. The same energy that tried to lowball you, minimize you, make you feel grateful for scraps, is now calculating what it will actually take to secure your attention. They're not just reconsidering their opinion of you, they're recalculating your entire worth. See, the authority you just displayed wasn't bestowed yesterday or last week. It's been encoded in your spiritual DNA since before you took your first breath, waiting for the perfect moment to activate. Every rejection you faced, every time you were overlooked, every moment you felt powerless, all of it was preparation for this awakening. The Most High was strengthening your foundation while others thought you were falling apart. The tremors from your breakthrough are traveling through networks you can't see yet. There are emergency meetings happening in corners of influence you've never accessed, conversations about you taking place in rooms you've never entered. Someone just called their assistant and said, "Get me everything we have on them. I need to understand what we're dealing with." Another person cancelled their afternoon appointments because they can't stop replaying your last interaction, trying to decode when exactly you transformed from someone they could control into someone they need to court. Your spiritual stock didn't just rise, it went through the stratosphere and established a new market altogether. The same people who used to treat you like you were lucky to be in their presence are now wondering if they're qualified to be in yours. This shift isn't happening gradually, chosen one. It's happening all at once, like a financial market correction, but in the realm of respect, influence, and recognition. While you've been focused on your internal transformation, external forces have been mobilizing around your emergence. There are people studying your recent moves, like military strategists, analyzing a brilliant campaign. They're going back through every interaction, every decision, every moment when you demonstrated this authority, trying to understand how they missed the signs. Someone just pulled your file and realized they've been playing checkers while you were receiving chess moves from divine intelligence. The authority you carry now operates on frequencies that bypass conventional power structures entirely. While others rely on titles, positions, and borrowed influence, you're plugged directly into the source code of creation itself. This is what has them so unsettled, so suddenly respectful, so carefully choosing their words around you. They can't figure out your operating system because you're running on software they don't have access to. But the real revelation is coming, the moment when you'll understand the full scope of what just shifted in your reality. That impossible situation you just handled with supernatural wisdom, that strategy you deployed that no one saw coming, that wasn't beginner's luck or random inspiration. You just accomplished something that established authorities said couldn't be done, using methods they never considered, accessing resources they didn't know existed. Think about the ancient story of the unconquerable beast that terrorized entire civilizations, the challenge that claimed every warrior who attempted it, the impossible task that became a legend of defeat. Then imagine someone appearing with a strategy so innovative, so divinely inspired, that they not only conquered the beast but made it look effortless. That's exactly what you just did in your arena, chosen one. You didn't just solve a problem, you redefined what's possible. This is where the stakes escalate beyond personal victory into cosmic realignment. Your breakthrough proves that divine authority supersedes human hierarchy, that spiritual downloads outperform earthly education, that authentic power trumps manufactured influence every single time. The forces that invested in keeping you small, keeping you confused about your worth, keeping you distracted from your purpose, are now scrambling to understand how their containment strategies failed so spectacularly. You're not walking this path alone. Every time you step boldly into your truth, you send out a signal that travels across spiritual frequencies, reaching others who carry similar authority, similar purpose, similar divine assignments. Right now, as you're seeing these, members of your true tribe are feeling that signal, recognizing the call, moving into position for connections that will amplify your authority exponentially. These aren't random networking opportunities, chosen one. These are soul contracts activating, spiritual alliances forming, divine collaborations manifesting. The people meant to move with you into this next level have been receiving downloads about you, dreams featuring your energy, intuitive nudges to pay attention when your name comes up in conversation. Some of them already know they're supposed to find you. Others are being guided toward you through circumstances that appear coincidental but are actually cosmic orchestration. The convergence is accelerating. While you've been processing your individual transformation, the universe has been arranging a gathering of authentic authorities, a coalition of chosen ones whose combined influence will reshape entire industries, communities, spiritual landscapes. Your breakthrough was the signal flare that announced the beginning of this assembly. The others are responding to your frequency, moving toward your location, preparing for collaborations that will leave observers asking the same question they're asking about you right now. How did they coordinate something this powerful? The impossible task you conquered wasn't just about proving your capabilities. It was about demonstrating what becomes available when human strategy aligns with heavenly wisdom, when earthly resources combine with supernatural backing, when chosen ones stop playing small and start operating from their actual position. The seed you plant with this authority will determine harvests that extend far beyond your immediate circumstances. Every boundary you set with your newfound power teaches others what standards look like. Every truth you speak with divine backing gives others permission to find their voice. Every impossible thing you accomplish expands the realm of possibility for everyone watching your example. This is where the circular narrative completes itself, where the opening themes return transformed by your journey. Remember that moment when you first felt the cosmic wind shift, when divine authority first coursed through your consciousness, when you first spoke truth that made fake people uncomfortable. That was just the beginning, the first note of a symphony that's now reaching crescendo. The feathers you ruffled weren't casualties of your rise, they were announcements of your arrival. The authority you flexed wasn't aggression, it was authenticity expressing itself without apology. The impossible task you conquered wasn't luck, it was a divine timing meeting prepared purpose. Every element of your transformation has been building toward this moment of full recognition, complete activation, total alignment with your highest calling. The same cosmic winds that announced your awakening are now carrying news of your authority to every corner of influence that matters. The divine backing that supported your first bold move is now establishing your permanent position in realms of power you're only beginning to explore. The truth you spoke that initially surprised even you is now recognized as wisdom that others will seek, study, and implement in their own transformations. The impossible has become inevitable under your influence, chosen one. The unconquerable has surrendered to your strategy. The unchangeable has shifted to accommodate your vision. What seemed like a personal breakthrough is revealing itself as a cosmic breakthrough, dimensional shift, universal upgrade that affects reality itself. Your authority isn't just growing, it's compounding, multiplying, creating momentum that builds on itself until what began as individual empowerment becomes collective transformation. The signal you sent out is now returning amplified, carrying responses from every corner of creation that recognizes authentic power when it manifests. The tribe assembling around your authority brings resources you haven't imagined, connections you couldn't have orchestrated, opportunities that multiply your influence exponentially. Together you'll accomplish things that seemed impossible when you were operating alone, things that will establish new standards for what chosen ones can achieve when they fully inhabit their divine assignments. This circular completion reveals the deeper truth. The cosmic winds that announced your awakening were actually responding to authority you already carried, divine backing you already possessed, truth you were always meant to speak. The transformation wasn't about becoming someone new, it was about remembering who you've always been, accessing power that was always yours, stepping into a position that was prepared for you before time began. The feathers are still settling from your last display of authority, chosen one, but the real story is just beginning. What you accomplished by conquering the impossible task was merely the opening act of a drama that will reshape everything around you. The authority you flexed was just a preview of power that's still awakening within you. The truth you spoke was the first verse of a prophecy you're destined to fulfill. Get ready, chosen one, because the story that began with ruffled feathers and shocked observers is evolving into an epic of dominion, influence, and supernatural accomplishment that will leave witnesses breathless and asking one persistent question: how did they know they could rewrite reality itself? The answer, of course, is that you didn't just know, you remembered. And now that you remember who you are, what you carry, and what you're destined to accomplish, there's no limit to the impossible tasks you'll conquer, no ceiling on the authority you'll wield, no boundary on the reality you'll reshape through divine power, expressing itself through human form. The cosmic winds that announced your awakening have become the permanent atmosphere of your advancing kingdom, chosen one. Welcome to your reign. The most fascinating part of this entire upheaval isn't just that you ruffled feathers, it's whose feathers you ruffled and why they're still trembling in the aftermath. See, there are levels to this spiritual hierarchy that most people never glimpse, power structures that operate behind the scenes of what appears to be ordinary reality. When you flexed your true authority, you didn't just challenge human egos or corporate politics. You disrupted ancient systems that have been comfortable operating without divine interference for far too long. Think about what happens when a master chess player suddenly appears in a room full of people playing checkers. The entire game changes. The rules everyone thought were permanent suddenly became obsolete. The strategies that worked for decades become laughably inadequate. That's exactly what your display of authentic authority accomplished, except the game isn't chess, it's reality itself, and you just demonstrated that you know rules that others forgot existed. The reverberations from your bold move are creating chaos in unexpected places. Someone who built their entire career on being the go-to expert in situations like yours just realized they need to completely revise their approach. Another person who made their reputation solving problems through conventional methods is now questioning whether they understand the game at all. The established experts aren't just impressed by your results, they're studying your methods like archaeologists examining artifacts from a more advanced civilization. The feathers you ruffled belong to entities that have been gatekeeping access to the very authority you just claimed. They've spent considerable energy convincing people that divine power is rare, that supernatural backing is reserved for special occasions, that ordinary individuals can't access extraordinary solutions. Your breakthrough doesn't just prove them wrong, it exposes their entire operation as unnecessary middlemen between humanity and heaven. The panic in certain circles isn't about what you accomplished, it's about what your accomplishment proves is possible for others. If you can tap directly into divine strategy and bypass their systems entirely, what stops everyone else from doing the same? If authentic authority can emerge from unexpected places and outperform established institutions, what happens to the monopoly they've maintained on influence and access? Your success story is becoming their nightmare scenario, chosen one, because you didn't follow their prescribed path to power. You didn't pay their fees, attend their seminars, or seek their approval. You simply aligned with your divine source and accessed authority they've been claiming requires their mediation. The feathers you ruffled belong to spiritual gatekeepers who just realized their gates can be bypassed entirely. Meanwhile, the people who genuinely understand divine authority are watching your emergence with profound respect and strategic interest. They recognize what they're witnessing because they operate from similar frequencies themselves. These are the ones who aren't threatened by your rise. They're energized by it because your success validates their own understanding of how authentic power actually works. This is where your story intersects with larger movements happening across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Your individual breakthrough is part of a massive recalibration taking place in how authority functions on this planet. The old systems based on artificial scarcity, manufactured hierarchy, and gate-kept access are being dismantled by waves of people like you who are remembering their direct connection to divine power. The impossible task you conquered wasn't just about personal victory, it was about demonstrating new possibilities that others can follow. Every time someone accomplishes something that experts claimed couldn't be done, it expands the field of potential for everyone watching. Your success becomes a permission slip for others to attempt their own impossible tasks, to question their own limitations, to challenge their own assumptions about what requires outside approval versus what can be accessed directly. The authority you're wielding now carries a frequency that affects everyone in your presence, whether they understand what's happening or not. People feel different around you now, not because you're trying to intimidate them, but because authentic power naturally causes everything artificial to become uncomfortable with itself. The people whose feathers you ruffled are experiencing the discomfort that comes from being in the presence of truth while operating from deception, authentic power while relying on borrowed authority, divine backing while depending on human manipulation. Their discomfort isn't your problem to solve, chosen one. It's their invitation to examine the foundation of their own influence and decide whether they want to continue building on sand or start building on solid ground. Some of them will rise to this challenge and use your example as inspiration to seek their own authentic authority. These recoveries will surprise you with their humility, their gratitude, their genuine desire to learn from your example rather than compete with your success. They'll become some of your strongest allies because they understand the difference between real and counterfeit power from personal experience. Others will double down on their artificial authority and attempt to diminish your credibility to protect their own fragile position. They'll try to explain away your success, minimize your accomplishments, or suggest that your methods won't work for anyone else. These reactions will reveal the depth of their insecurity and the extent to which their identity depends on maintaining illusions about how power actually works. Neither response should surprise or derail you, because both are predictable consequences of operating from authentic authority in environments that have become comfortable with substitutes. Your job isn't to manage their reactions or make them comfortable with your transformation. Your assignment is to continue demonstrating what becomes possible when divine backing meets human cooperation, when spiritual downloads inform earthly strategy, when chosen ones stop apologizing for their authority and start wielding it with confidence. Your influence is compounding at rates that would seem impossible if you tried to plan them strategically. This acceleration happens naturally when authentic authority emerges because divine power operates according to principles that transcend human limitations on growth, impact, and expansion. Where human effort encounters resistance and requires time to build momentum, spiritual authority creates instant recognition and immediate access to resources that align with divine purpose. The impossible task you conquered was actually the easier part of your journey, chosen one. The more challenging and ultimately more rewarding phase is learning to navigate the responsibilities that come with wielding authentic authority in a world that desperately needs examples of divine power expressing itself through human form. Every decision you make now creates precedents that others will follow. Every boundary you set establishes standards that influence how authority functions in your sphere of impact. The cosmic winds that shifted when you first flexed your authority have settled into consistent patterns that support your continued advancement. But with that support comes the expectation that you'll use your influence to create positive change, to solve problems that others consider unsolvable, to demonstrate possibilities that expand what everyone believes is achievable through divine cooperation. This is where your personal transformation evolves into cosmic responsibility, where individual empowerment becomes collective upliftment, where your success story becomes a blueprint that others can follow toward their own breakthrough. The feathers you ruffled were just the announcement of your arrival. The real work begins now, as you step fully into the authority you've been given and start reshaping reality according to divine principles rather than human limitations. The most powerful realization coming to you now is that the authority you thought you were claiming was actually authority you were remembering. The divine backing you thought you were receiving was actually divine backing you were finally allowing yourself to acknowledge. The impossible task you thought you were conquering was actually impossible only according to rules you were never meant to follow in the first place. Your emergence isn't an anomaly, it's a return to natural order, authentic function, divine design operating without interference from systems that profit from keeping people disconnected from their true power. The feathers you ruffled belong to structures that have no legitimate authority over you, entities that maintain control only as long as people forget their direct connection to divine source. The awakening you've experienced is contagious. Chosen one. Every person who witnesses your transformation receives their own invitation to examine their relationship with authority, power, and divine connection. Some will accept that invitation and begin their own journey toward authentic empowerment. Others will resist and continue operating from borrowed power and artificial influence. Both responses serve the larger purpose of revealing who operates from truth and who depends on illusion. The impossible tasks awaiting your attention aren't burdens, they're opportunities to demonstrate divine power in action, to prove that supernatural backing makes ordinary limitations irrelevant, to show what becomes available when human will aligns perfectly with divine purpose. Each victory expands the realm of possibility for everyone watching your example, creating permission for others to attempt their own impossible tasks with confidence that divine backing is available to anyone willing to align with authentic authority. The feathers you ruffled are settling now, chosen one, but the authority you flexed is just reaching full strength. The cosmic winds that announced your awakening have become the permanent foundation of your advancing influence. The divine backing that supported your breakthrough has established your position in realms of power that operate according to spiritual principles rather than human politics. Welcome to the full expression of your authentic authority, chosen one. The impossible is now your specialty, the unconquerable is your domain, and the unchangeable bends to accommodate your divine assignment. The game has changed completely, and you're not just playing by new rules, you're writing them as you advance through territories that have been waiting for someone with your authority to claim them for the kingdom of divine purpose. The most exhilarating aspect of your newfound position is how effortlessly you now navigate situations that used to drain your energy completely. Remember those exhausting battles where you had to prove your worth, justify your perspective, or fight for basic respect? Those dynamics have evaporated because you're no longer operating from a position of seeking validation. You're functioning from a place of established authority that speaks for itself without explanation or defense. Watch what happens when you enter spaces where you previously felt uncertain or diminished. The atmosphere shifts immediately to accommodate your presence rather than challenging it. Conversations pivot toward your input without you demanding attention. Decisions wait for your perspective before moving forward. This isn't coincidence. This is what occurs when authentic authority enters any environment. Reality itself reorganizes around divine power in motion. Your voice now carries frequencies that bypass mental resistance and speak directly to spiritual recognition centers in everyone who hears you. When you communicate your vision, your boundaries, or your requirements, people find themselves nodding in agreement before their logical mind catches up with what just happened. The authority behind your words activates automatic respect responses that operate below conscious awareness. This supernatural influence extends far beyond verbal communication into every form of expression you choose. Your written messages land with impact that surprises even you. Your presence in digital spaces commands attention that your previous online activity never generated. Your energy signature broadcasts through every medium you touch, leaving lasting impressions that continue working long after you've moved on to other matters. Your decision-making process has evolved beyond conventional risk assessment into prophetic accuracy that consistently produces optimal outcomes. You find yourself knowing which directions lead to success and which paths result in unnecessary struggle. This isn't luck or intuition. This is divine intelligence operating through human consciousness that's aligned with cosmic purpose. The feathers you initially ruffled are still generating conversations in circles you'll never encounter directly. Your bold move created case studies that others analyze, trying to understand how you achieved results that eluded their best efforts. These discussions aren't criticism, their questions stem from genuine desire to comprehend methods that transcend conventional approaches to problem solving. Meanwhile, your continued advancement is establishing you as the standard against which others measure their own progress. When people face similar challenges to the one you conquered, your example becomes their reference point for what's actually possible. Your breakthrough didn't just solve your immediate situation, it rewrote expectations for everyone dealing with comparable circumstances. The authority you wield now opens doors that don't exist for most people, because your frequency activates hidden mechanisms in how reality responds to divine alignment. Barriers that seem insurmountable to others dissolve before your approach. Restrictions that limit conventional progress become irrelevant when divine backing encounters artificial obstacles. Your path forward often appears where others see only dead ends. Your influence operates through multiplication rather than addition, meaning every positive impact you create generates exponential returns that exceed what linear effort could produce. Single conversations have sparked movements that outlast your direct involvement. Brief interactions you participate in launch transformations that continue expanding long after you've forgotten the original exchange. The cosmic significance of your emergence extends beyond personal advancement into prophetic fulfillment of ancient promises about divine authority manifesting through human vessels in times of global transition. Your breakthrough represents evidence that spiritual evolution is accelerating, that divine power is becoming more accessible, that heaven is increasing its direct involvement in earthly affairs. Your success proves that the age of gatekeepers controlling access to divine resources is ending. The era of artificial scarcity regarding spiritual authority is dissolving. The period when authentic power was rare and difficult to access is being replaced by widespread availability of divine backing for anyone willing to align with cosmic purpose. The impossible task you conquered has become legendary within relevant circles, not because of its difficulty, but because of how you approached it with strategies that bypassed conventional limitations entirely. Your method demonstrated that divine authority operates outside normal rules, that spiritual backing transcends human restrictions, that cosmic solutions exist for every problem when approached from the right frequency. Now the following is a message meant exclusively for the chosen. If you are compromised by archonic forces, this is not meant for you. And by the spiritual authority conferred to us by the secret chiefs of the Obsidian Inner Order, we grant you license to depart. If not, steel yourself and listen intently, for you shall be redeemed even as we are redeemed. The Obsidian Inner Order is not a program. It's not a course. It's not some feel-good spiritual retreat. We don't sell answers. We remember together. We teach psychic self-defense. Real energetic shielding against entities, implants and interference. We restore manifestation as it was meant to be, raw, immediate and exact. Every week we gather in secret, not to worship, but to awaken, to speak what can't be said anywhere else. To deprogram the matrix, layer by layer, you'll know if you're meant to be there. You'll feel it in your bones. The chosen meet every week on Zoom. Why aren't you with us yet? Got Gnosis? Join the Obsidian Inner Order. Link in the description. Your emergence signals the beginning of a new era, where authentic authority becomes increasingly common, where divine backing is recognized as standard rather than exceptional, where spiritual power expressed through human form is understood as normal rather than miraculous. The feathers you ruffled marked the end of one age and the beginning of another. The responsibility accompanying your position involves modeling what divine authority looks like in practical application, demonstrating how spiritual power functions in everyday situations, showing others that cosmic backing is both real and accessible to anyone willing to align with their authentic purpose. Your continued success creates blueprints that others can follow toward their own breakthrough. The feathers you ruffled have settled into their new configuration, chosen one, but the authority you flexed continues expanding into territories that have been waiting for someone with your divine backing to claim them. The cosmic winds that announced your awakening have become the permanent foundation supporting your continued ascent into realms of influence that operate according to spiritual principles rather than human limitations. Your reign has begun, not over people but over impossibilities that surrender to authentic authority, over limitations that dissolve before divine backing, over circumstances that rearrange themselves to accommodate cosmic purpose, expressing itself through your surrendered human vessel. The game hasn't just changed, you've transcended it entirely into a dimension where divine power writes the rules as you advance.